speaking, and welcome to this video, Eldar Learning Curve, and today we're looking at the first of the fast attack options, and that's the Shining Spears. Shining Spear model, first up, one of my favourites actually. I mean, check out this paint colour scheme. Now, I mean, I know some people don't like it, but personally I really like that blue and white. I think it looks awesome, and more importantly I think it's going to really match in with my army, which is obviously purple and white. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to painting these when I get around to it. It's been a while since I've had these and I haven't painted them, and there's reasons behind that. We're going to discuss those in a minute. First up, let's take a look at the models. So I've magnetised mine, so they've all come off the bases, mainly for storage purposes, but also so that they don't get broken off, because that's what happens with these flying bases. This is the X-Arts. I've magnetised him, so he's currently got the power weapon on, and that can come off, and I can put the Star Lance on, which I usually have in this upright position just because it looks really cool. So yeah, that's the hobby side of things. Let's have a look at the actual models. So they're on jet bikes, they're aspect warriors, fast attack of course, and the jet bike is exactly the same as the normal jet bikes. You've got 12-inch movement, you've got your 36-inch turbo boost, you've got your D6 movement in the assault. They're very fast, they've got the twin link catapults on there. They're pretty useful, but there is a bit of a struggle here, and I think a lot of Eldar players will probably agree with me here. When you first start to play Eldar and you look at Shining Spears, the weapons that they have on them, it really makes you want to take them. You want to have Shining Spears in your army, and when I first started playing I always had Shining Spears in my army. As you progress, especially with where 5th and 6th edition is quite heavily based on troops choices scoring, and of course they're not scoring, being fast attack. Okay, one of the missions, they might get to be scoring, but effectively they're not scoring. And the amount of points that you invest in the Shining Spears, which is over 200 points with the upgrades and stuff, it does make you wonder why you're taking those in your jet bike army over and above just having more jet bikes, more scoring units. I mean, you could take a decent sized squad of jet bikes, troop jet bikes, with a warlock, and it's scoring. It adds more force to the normal army if you've got 2 or 3 jet bike squads. So it's actually quite difficult to get these guys in your list, especially when you look at some of the downfalls that they have. So let's have a look at the plus sides of these guys. First up, so their weapons. Well, they have these lance weapons. Laser lances are actually a pretty decent weapon, but they're quite short range. So they're only 6-inch range, which is pretty minuscule. But they are strength 6, and they're lance weapons. So even a Land Raider, which is armor 14, that will go down to armor 12. So any 6s with this weapon and you're going to glance them. So you only need 4 6s to glance. Generally the unit only 5 in a unit. This guy here, the power weapon, okay, could be a potential option, but I've always used this one, the Star Lance, which effectively is the same weapon as this, but it's strength 8. So that gives you just that extra little edge within the unit. Once you've charged in, on the first round of the assault, all these weapons here become strength 6 power weapons. So yeah, AP3. It's pretty useful for assaulting marines. Obviously with the 6th edition, Terminator armor, etc. is not going to be so useful nowadays, because AP3 isn't as it used to be. But up against normal space marines, that could be quite useful. But you have to be careful, because once you've done your first round of combat, that power weapon just drops down. So you've been at normal attacks and normal strength. So you have to just be careful with that, because although they have a 3+ save, there's not many in the unit, and they can go down quite quickly. So let's have a look at the upgrades that you can take for the X-Arc. So first up is Skill Rider. 10 points, and this is, if you're going to be using Shining Spears, this is an upgrade you will definitely want to take. What it does, it automatically lets you pass dangerous terrain tests, so that's fantastic, and more importantly it adds 1 to your Jinx save. Yeah, so you get +1 to your jinx save, so not a 5+ jinx save, a 4+ jinx save. And of course, being bikes, if you go flat out, that becomes a 3+ jinx save. So these guys can actually survive a fair amount of shooting with a 3+ save. It's unlikely you're going to be guiding these. I wouldn't recommend putting a Farseer with them. The chances are you're going to be away from a Farseer, so they're not going to be fortuned. So you have to be fairly mindful where you put them and how you use them. They're going to have a certain role which they need to go out and they need to do. The other one is withdraw, which is hit and run. I have used this. I have put this on them quite a number of times and tried it out when I was first starting, to play. But 25 points is a lot of money, and in my experience, it's just not worth it, because you're usually dead before you get a chance to use it. And if you do use it, you manage to get hit and run, you might only have 1 left, maybe 2 if you're lucky. And their effectiveness from there on is just not worth it. So yeah, 25 points for hit and run, I would say definitely no, don't take that. But skilled rider, an almost definite yes. And indeed, having the X-Art, it's definitely worth upgrading for the X-Art, because going for that strength 8 just gives you that little edge on the unit, and that's how I would like to use it. One way to beef up this unit very nicely is with an autarch, with again the lance weapon. That works really well, but we'll talk about autarchs later in the game. Later in the series. So that's pretty much it for these guys. They obviously have the normal rules like hammer and wrath being jet bikes, which could be quite useful, but yeah, you can't really rely on hammer and wrath. So there you go. That's it for the shining spears. And next up, I believe, is warp spiders.